Hey guys, how's it going? So we're back with another video again, and I can't believe that we have to do this again. It just goes on and on and on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and it never stops. It never stops. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. It's driving me completely crazy. I just want to play my guitar. I just want to review the gold-plated MXR Phase 90 that I just got in the mail. It's really cool. I want to show you that. I want to talk about my Plexi. I want to talk about my vintage guitars. I want to talk about my 1989 HM Strat. I want to talk about my limited edition George Lynch LTD guitar. But I can't, because this kind of stuff keeps happening. This starts again in the same way that these videos have started lately. I got an email from Fender, and it was talking about a new product. Now, before we talk about the new product, I want to talk about the old product. So here we go. This is the Player 2 Stratocaster. And we've talked about this before, about how it's an absolutely, objectively horrendous deal for what you get. First of all, this guitar used to cost $799, right? Now, it's $839.99. Or, as we've discussed at length, ad nauseum, from $75.82 a month, or 0% APR with shop pay, or from $52 a month, or 4 payments with 0 interest with Klarna. Absolutely predatory behavior. Fender should be ashamed of themselves for this. But that's not what this is about. Let's talk about the Player 2 for a second before we move forward on what this video is about. So the Player 2 is basically the old Mexican Standard, except it's worse. It's worse because it is more expensive, and it's worse because they did things that don't make any sense, okay? So some of this is a holdover from the old Player 1, and some of this is new. So they have a 2-point trem, which I really don't like. That's just me. And they have the classic gear tuners. I just think this is really funny, okay? So it used to be that they came with the sealed tuners with the 6-screw trem, but now they have the modern 2-point trem with the classic gear tuners. Where are the classic gear tuners with the 6-screw trem? It's reserved for the vintage reissues that are way more expensive than this. So, good job, Fender. Thanks for forcing people to immediately spend money if they want a vintage accurate Strat. And don't hit me with, oh, well, if you want vintage accurate, then you have to get a vintage reissue. No, because forever it was a vintage reissue. A Strat was a Strat. There was no such thing as a vintage reissue, really. I mean, yeah, the paint might have been different and the color might have been different and some of the nuance was a little bit different. But generally speaking, a Strat was a Strat was a Strat was a Strat was a Strat, and the sealed tuners was looked at as an upgrade. So now what are they trying to say? Are they saying that the classic gear tuners were actually better all along and that they've been screwing us all this time? Are they saying that the 2-point trem is actually better than the 6-screw? I don't know. The fact of the matter is, you can buy a Mexican Fender Strat pre-owned for like $400. So why in the hell would you pay $840? But that's not what this is about. Oh, and real quick, before you say, oh, but it's got rosewood. So did every beginner guitar of all time until about 2008. Maybe a little later. So that's not a selling point. Sorry, just isn't. The email that I got. Limited edition Player 2 Stratocaster. Are you ready to see how different it is from this one and how much more it is? Do you think it's the same price? How much do you think it is? You ready? $944.99. $950 for a Mexican Strat. And not just that. It's the exact same guitar as this one. Exactly the same. They didn't even bother to try adding just a cursory little extra nothing. They did nothing. They added sparkles to it. They poured a jar of glitter onto the body before they burst the paint and decided that that was worth over $100. That's all they did. Don't believe me? Contoured alder body. Contoured alder. As you can see here, alder. Modern C neck profile. Modern C neck profile. 9.5-inch radius, maple or rosewood. This one is rosewood. Oh, rosewood. Body is alder, body is alder. 2-point trim. 2-point trim. Classic gear tuners. Classic gear tuners. Don't believe me? Let's scroll down. Classic gear tuners. Classic gear tuners. Wait a minute. Oh, I thought they used the same. I thought they might have been using the same picture. Oh, but the lighting's different, though. They made these look more shiny. They also made the neck look darker. I mean, really. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that this color is nice. Okay? It's not $944.99 nice, but the color is nice. I do like the way that looks. It does look special. But you got to be special to ask people for $944.99 for this. I mean, have they completely lost their mind? This keeps going back to the same point that we've discussed over and 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 over. Fender, Stratocaster, and Fenders in general were designed to be modular, easy and quick to build, easy and quick to source parts, easy and quick to paint, and reasonably priced. Now, I understand with inflation that the cost of a Strat back in the 50s and 60s was unattainable for most people. Okay, but so was almost everything else when you're talking about the discretionary things back then. We live in a consumer-centric society now where everybody has to have more and more of everything, right? So things have to be a little bit cheaper relative to our income so that we can buy all of those things. It didn't used to be that way. Back in those days, you know, they were still recovering from the depression in their minds. So anything that was discretionary could be more expensive because they didn't feel that they were entitled to those things. But we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. The fact of the matter is these guitars were made to be cheaper and easier to produce than their competitors, right? Companies like Gibson, where you've got all these meticulous things going on. Whether you like Gibson or not, you have to admit that the craftsmanship of a Gibson guitar is more involved, right? You and I, with no training whatsoever, could very easily go get a random body and a random neck and random tuners and a random bridge and a random pickguard and screw it all together, and it would generally turn out sort of okay, right? But could you and I go get a body and a neck with a neck tenon and set the neck tenon correctly and glue it in and do it right? I don't know. We could learn maybe. But that's more craftsmanship involved with that, right? I mean, the Les Paul Studio is not that much more expensive than this, really, all things considered. I just don't understand what Fender's doing. Like, you would think that they would go the other way, right? That they would start taking features away and charge less, which I'm for that, by the way. I think that's what they should do. They should make a Fender Stratocaster that has the corners cut on it, that's made well. See, that's the operative thing, made well. They kind of tried this with the Indonesian one, but first of all, it's made in Indonesia. That was one corner, major corner that was cut. Second of all, the finish is terrible, the quality control is terrible, the pickups are terrible, the fret ends were terrible, the neck was terrible, the bridge was terrible, the block was terrible. Everything about that guitar was bad, right? So I'm not saying cut corners only in thinking about cost. I'm saying, where is the Fender Bronco or the Fender Mustang of today? And I'm not talking about literally the Fender Mustang. I'm saying Fender knew that there was a need for a product that fit that need, and we don't have that product now. It was this, right? It was this. The Mexican Strat. It was this. This was the one where it was made in another country. It was made of slightly cheaper parts compared to the American ones, and they were, you know, they weren't terribly expensive. It's fair for me to call this expensive, even considering inflation, because used guitar prices have not increased at the same rate as new guitar prices. This is a supply and demand economy that we live in here, okay? And so if people don't want Fender Strats, they don't go up in value. Why is it that you can go buy a used Fender Strat for under $500 and you've been able to do that for the last 25 or 30 years? Why is that? Why has inflation gone up? Why has the average wage gone up? Why has the cost of living gone up, but the cost of a used Fender Strat hasn't really gone up all that much? Why? The demand just isn't there. And you can't make a product like this for 70 years and put millions and millions and millions and millions of them out there and then charge $840 for a new one. It's exactly the same as the old one. They didn't do anything different here. I would argue that it's worse. The tuners, I think, are better. I think the classic gear tuners are the greatest tuners of all time. I would take these over lockers any day. I love them. And I know I'm in the minority when I say that, but I like them a whole lot. But everything else about it, I can already tell just by looking at it how it's going to feel. You know, too. I just don't get it. But this is really just the slap in the face of it all, right? This isn't the Player 2 Modified, which was a new product. It's not enough, and it's still pathetic and unforgivable. But it was a new product at least, sort of. It was sort of a new product, right? The Player 2 Modified, because it might have had a Floyd Rose or something. There was something about it that made it a new product altogether. This isn't even a new product. This is the old product. All they did was take a jar of glitter and go, and then paint it exactly the same as the other one. Look at it. In fact, they probably burst it first and then poured the glitter and then put the clear coat on top of it. It's unforgivable. It's terrible. And I cannot believe that we have to keep talking about this. Fender, get your head out of your ass and understand the situation that you're in. You're not being taken seriously by the average person right now. The average YouTube channel takes you very seriously, right? They can't get enough of talking about how good you are. They can't. They won't say declarative things like, the Standard series sucks. The Player 2 series is overpriced shit. They won't say it. They won't say those things. I will, and I'll continue to do it. And if you don't want me to make these videos anymore, then stop releasing the shit.